Hi, I'm Paul Green, and I hope you're all doing well today. I just wanted to put this together for you as kind of an intro for a series of videos. Right now, I'm pretty sure to be at least three videos, not counting this one, of course. But it could be as many as four. It depends on how long-winded I get during them. But it's going to be on some alternative learning methods that I think is going to help you, uh, get something better from your students and to help your students learn faster and retain more. First of all, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I came to this. I've been a martial artist my entire life, since 4 years old. I started way back in 1977 at the National Guard Armory in Athens, Alabama, studying Wado Ryu. Later, I would move on and do some other things, wrestling, did some Wing Chun, done some Korean martial arts. Eventually, I settled on Jiu Jitsu. Um, my current ranks right now, I just received my ninth dan in Anjing Banfa. I also have a sixth dan in Midori Yamagoshin Jiu Jitsu, and I hold a professor title there, Kyoshi Sho, the American Budo Society, as well as a fourth dan in judo and a sixth dan in Koguryu ninjutsu. I've also been active in combatives since the 90s, and that's pretty much my background. I served as a special projects director for the International Combatives and Self Defense Association. I was also a technical director for the American Budo Society up until roughly about 2012. But being in combatives, I used when I was a special projects director for ICSDA, which that our organization is not around anymore, but or it's inactive. I think there's another organization using that name, but I think it's some former members of the original organization started a new one and just used the name with the permission of the original founder. But when I was in that organization, I would see all these groups, all these people come in, and to have the programs vetted, and for what ICSDA did, it was great. They all most of them did a really good job. They had good techniques. It was good programs and a lot of good things that you could get from it. So nothing on that organization or anything else. It was a great organization. I honestly miss it. I really liked being a member of it. But at the same time, I was moving towards getting out of doing regular martial arts classes and moving towards a more law enforcement oriented type of teaching. And as I studied the problem itself, what I realized is that a lot of these programs coming in, they're good programs and they have good techniques if you're going to go to a dojo and do them 3 nights a week. But when you're training somebody that has no training time, as a matter of fact, the time that they're doing your course in your class might actually be the only time they do it. That's going to really affect the way that you teach. And so I had to really look at it. I have a course called STAR Method. I've been teaching for about 10 years, roughly, 9 or 10 years. And, it really, really affects the way that you teach because they don't get the training time to get the things reinforced. So you have to approach it differently. You can't use the same teaching methodology. It's not going to benefit them if they're not going to practice it. So you have to come up with something else. And I started doing some research. It was kind of kicked off by, oh geez, I think it was an article on Hick's Law that was written by Hawk Hockham, and it had some terms in it, and the article wasn't about those terms, but it was just some things that it mentioned: conceptual learning, implicit and procedural memory, and sequential learning. as alternate learning methods. And and I really kind of honed in on that, and I started to do my research. I researched people like Daniel Kahneman, for example, who was a Nobel Prize winning behavioral economist. I think he won that in 2003. And then you have people like Richard Mose, who's done a lot of Alzheimer's research at Mount Sinai Hospital. And, just come to a different way of teaching it. And I started employing those methods with the officers that I was teaching and seeing really good results. It really stuck with them. With the feedback that I got, it was really, really positive. People would, the course has a 2 year recert, and they would take the course, come back 2 years, and they would still remember a lot of it. And then the parts they didn't remember, they were able to pick up, pretty quick. And when it comes back to them, you don't lose it like you think you would. And there's reasons for that. There's ways that you can teach that actually affect the physiology of how the brain functions. And you can do that as an instructor. You can access that. And so, in employing that with the law enforcement officers who only get 2 days of training, maybe a year, hopefully more. But at the very minimum, the time that they're in my class, which is 2 days, I started to come full circle with it because the techniques that I taught in the class, the physical techniques, were conceptual, so they could really work well with anything. I had academies that would work the course, even though it was an unarmed course, they would work it into their baton training. Some would work it into SWAT training and OC spray and things like that, to where they could take the ideas from it and integrate it. And I thought, man, if I could take 2 days and teach these guys something that's going to save their life, for at least 2 years when they get back to me, how much better employing the teaching methods, not necessarily the physical techniques. This isn't art specific or anything. You could apply it to any martial art. And it's not so much necessarily changing too much your format, just the way that you teach what you already teach. But if I could teach, start somebody at white belt teaching this stuff, how good would they be, and how much better would they understand the material when they got to black belt? Um, and that was the question. And so, I kind of started looking at it more that way. And and trying it at classes that I would teach, and I got really good results. And what I want to do is I want to share that with you and explain why these things work a certain way. We're going to start with conceptual learning, which most training that I've seen is based more on what's known as a global learning format, which is you just learn like a whole bunch of stuff, and then at the end, hopefully a light comes on. That tends to be more towards memorization, not really learning, and that's kind of sad, but that's the way most things run currently. And I would like to teach you conceptual learning instead, and how that works and how you can apply it to what you already do. I'm not gonna do one of these things where you have these guys, and I hate it when these guys get on here where they talk about, well, you should do my system, and my system's the best system, and everything else is crap, and da 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 da. No, no. You, I want you to take this and apply it to what you already do. If you do karate, teach karate. Just, apply these methods. If you teach jujitsu, keep teaching jujitsu. Or, whatever system that you teach, keep teaching it, you know, but just, kind of, maybe work some of these teaching techniques in. Uh, so, as I said, we're going to start on conceptual learning versus global learning, what the difference is and why, I like conceptual learning better. And then we're going to start talking about some physiology on how people learn. And this gives you some insight on, how to teach them because you know how things function. We're going to look at system 1 versus system 2 cognition, a specific type of implicit memory known as procedural memory, which that's the type of memory that stores physical procedures. Um, then after that, we're going to, kind of finish it up on talking about sequential learning and how all of these are related and how they all tie into each other that can give you some really good resources to get the most out of your students. As I said, this is just the intro. It's either going to be, it'll be at least 3 videos in addition to this, covering those topics. It may be 4. Once we get into it, there may be a lot, more to go over. But anyway, I thank you for your time. And I hope that you enjoy the next videos that are upcoming. This has just, been an intro, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.